All right, fifth graders, today we're going to start our grid drawings. Now first we're going to talk a little bit about what a grid is and why an artist would use it. A grid is just a tool to help an artist draw more accurately, or in other words, to help them make their drawing look more like what we see in real life. Artists like Van Gogh and Leonardo da Vinci would use a grid so that their drawings would be more accurate and so that they could draw what they were observing or what they were seeing. It is not a trick, it is not cheating, it's not anything like that. It is simply a tool to help you make your drawings more accurate. Now, it can be a little difficult. It is time consuming. It does require a lot of patience, but we're going to do a practice round on this pizza that you see right here so we can all learn how to use the grid. So by the time we get to our superheroes, we will be experts at it. Now, as you can see here, I've got an image of a pizza slice, and it looks like it's got a checkerboard on top. The checkerboard is what I'm referring to as the grid. Right below, I have the exact same grid, except there is no pizza slice. Now, the grid sort of acts like a puzzle. You draw square by square by square, and your squares are sort of like putting those puzzle pieces together, and by the time you move through the entire grid drawing one square at a time, you will have completed your entire pizza slice. Now, the most important thing about using a grid is to make sure that whatever square you're looking at up here, you are drawing inside the same square down here. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to number my grid all the way across my paper, and I want you to do this as well when you get your pizza slice to practice. It goes from 1 to 11 across the top, and then I'm going to number it down the side from 1 to 8. I'm going to do the same thing on the grid I'm going to be drawing below, so this will help me make sure that I'm looking at and drawing in the exact same square on both grids. Now, as I was saying, we're only going to draw square by square. We're not going to worry about looking at this pizza slice and trying to draw the entire thing. We're just going to look at one small square at a time, and whatever square we're looking at, that is the same square we're going to be drawing in down below. Now, to help us only look at one square at a time, we're going to use this little tool called a viewfinder. I made them out of old business cards that I have. The square that's cut out of the middle is the same size square on both of our grids. So all I'm going to do, I'm going to make sure that I line up my cutout square with the square that's printed on the grid, and I'm just going to look at this very first square where my pizza slice starts. If you'll notice, it's on the very first row, and it is inside square number 7 on that row. So I'm going to put my viewfinder over that square. I'm going to go down to my blank grid, and I'm going to find the first row in square 7, and all I'm going to do is copy that exact same image that I see, all those shapes and lines. I'm going to do the same thing in this square. Now, what you want to do, you want to pay attention to where lines start, where they stop, and where they are inside that square. For example, this curved line right here starts in the very bottom corner of that square. So I'm going to start my curved line in the same spot, and I'm going to curve it up to about the same place inside the middle of the square, and then I'm going to make this slanted line that comes down. Now, this slanted line does not come to the corner, it comes just above the corner. So I'm going to do the same thing down here. Now, you'll also notice that some of these lines have a thickness. They are thicker than what your pencil can draw. The same thing will be true when you start on your superheroes. So if you want to make your line thicker, you can just use your pencil to kind of shade it in like I'm doing. Or you can also draw 2 lines to make the thickness and then shade that in. I'll show you that on the next step. Now I have, let's see, right next to my first square in 7, I have another small line in square number 8. So I'm going to move over to square number 8 here, and I'm just going to make that same small line down in the very bottom corner. Now, like I was saying, if you have a thick line, you can actually use 2 lines to make the thickness, and then you can just fill that in. Now, as you draw, like I said, this is like putting a puzzle together. So each square is going to sort of connect to the square that was next to it. So if you move your viewfinder away, you can see that this line in the bottom corner of square 8 connects to the lines that we drew in square number 7. So I want to make sure that I do that as well as I move along. Now, I have nothing left in the squares on the first row, so I'm going to move down to the second row, and I'm going to move my viewfinder across until I come to a square that has something in it, and that is square number 6. I'm going to come to the second row, go over to square 6, and I'm just going to draw the same thing that I see, diagonal line that goes all the way across, and there's a little kind of curved line down in the bottom corner. So I'm going to keep moving across, and I'm going to make sure that I pay attention to where my lines start and where they stop inside the square. And I'm just going to continue completing this pizza slice. Okay, I finished my grid drawing of my pizza slice. You noticed I went row by row, and I would draw only what I saw in every single little square. I did not just try to sit here and look at it and draw it and put something down on the paper. That is not the correct way to do this. Now, some people do find it easier to use the viewfinder. Some people find it a little bit harder. So as long as you are looking at the square that you are drawing inside of and you are moving square by square, I don't mind if you choose to not use the viewfinder. That's completely up to you, but it does help a lot of people. Now, we're going to practice this first on our pizza slice, and then we will start picking out our superheroes and moving over to our full-size grid.